The earliest Cernunnos images are certainly those in Val Camonica, the Camonica Valley in northern Italy. These are rock carvings, some of thousands of those which cover large rocks in the valley. Of these, I'm aware of 4 which seem to represent Cernunnos. These are the 3 less famous ones. They are less clear than the 4th and convey less information, but they do confirm that we are dealing with more than a once-off image. The most famous is this one, from Capo di Ponte. It shows a standing figure with antlers and his arms in what is called the orans position. There appears to be a torque, which was a neck ring worn by the Celts, around his right arm. He may be clasping an unidentifiable object in his right hand. The wavy line to his left has usually been interpreted as a snake based on later images, and I see no reason to disagree with this view. I think that those who have gone further and see it as a ram-headed snake, however, are just seeing what they want to see. Cernunnos is wearing a long robe, just as he is in one of the other Val Camonica images. A smaller image stands in front of him who has reasonably been interpreted as a worshipper. I've been unable to find photos or drawings which show these images in context among the other drawings in the rock, however, so it remains possible that he belongs to another grouping, or even on his own. The fact that he has a phallus need not tell us anything about Cernunnos, as there are many phallus-bearing images in Val Camonica in non-erotic contexts, which suggest the possibility that the artist simply wanted to identify this figure as male. It is currently impossible to obtain clear absolute dates for rock carvings. Relative chronologies can be constructed, however, and those in one area correlated with those in others on stylistic grounds. By comparing those which can be dated with the others, approximate dates can be obtained. The consensus is that the Cernunnos carvings date from the 4th century BCE. With the Gundestrup Cauldron, we've made a huge leap forward in artistic competence. This masterpiece is made of gilt silver, with a bowl-shaped bottom piece and plates that are connected above to form the cauldron's walls. There were originally 8, approximately square outer panels, one of which is now missing, and 5 rectangular inner panels. The outer panels each show a central figure accompanied by smaller ones. The larger figures are most likely deities, and the smaller ones either lesser deities or human attendants. One of the inside panels is this enigmatic scene. Other than that it must represent an incident from ritual and or myth, there is no consensus about what is going on. Is it a human sacrifice, a rite of passage? Do we see a cauldron of rebirth, a ritual shaft? Is a large figure a deity, a priest or priestess? Why are the warriors on foot on the bottom and on horseback on top? Is a tree an artistic divider or is it symbolic? And most important for us, what's the ram-headed serpent doing here? Another panel is less confusing. It shows a deity holding a wheel, which is also held by a smaller figure. There are animals, 2 elephants, and 3 griffins scattered around the space, probably as space fillers. The main figure is usually, and I believe correctly, identified as a storm god. I'll discuss the reasons for this identification later. A third panel shows a female figure, certainly a goddess, also surrounded by animals. Unfortunately, we don't know what sort of goddess she was. And there's the Cernunnos panel, which we've seen already. The sudden increase in artistic sophistication as compared to the Val Camonica images is due to the cauldron having been made by a Thracian silversmith, although not far from the valley. Some of the elements that have identified the Thracian origin are the ivy leaves in the background of some of the images and the presence of elephants and griffins. Despite it having been made by a Thracian, we can be sure that the cauldron's imagery is Celtic. For instance, on the dunking panel, 3 of the warriors are blowing cornixes, which were a kind of Celtic horn. The Celtic detail, which as far as I know hasn't been pointed out before, is the half-body representation seen in the storm god figure, the goddess with the wheel, and the deities on the outer panels. This form of image is also found in carvings in Val Camonica, where it seems to signify a spiritual being. How the cauldron got to Gundestrup in Denmark is not certain, although it was probably as war booty. Since it was discovered in a peat bog, it was initially believed to have been an offering. Pollen analysis has shown, however, that at the time it was deposited, the area was dry, so it's more likely the cauldron was hidden in a time of crisis. Its location could then have been lost by the death of the hider and whatever was causing the crisis. The dating of the cauldron has varied, but the current consensus is that it comes from the 2nd or 1st century BCE. I'd like to take a leap now in time and space to Lyon in southern Gaul in the reign of Augustus. This small silver cup shows what can only be an image of Cernunnos, despite the missing head, which I've been told by Alexei Kondratiev was clipped off deliberately. This may have been due to someone who was offended by an antlered god, either in Christian era or antiquity. He's been partly Romanized, both by his draping and his half reclining on a chair, but the rest of the iconography is clearly Cernunnos-like. He holds a torque in his right hand and a cornucopia, another Romanizing element, in his left. There is a stag on his right and a dog on his left. The cornucopia has displaced the expected snake so that it is wrapped around a tree. This is a classical motif, the standard way of depicting the serpent of the Hesperides. The similarity of the imagery on the Gundestrup Cauldron is striking, to the point where it is likely that the creator of the cup had seen either the cauldron or an image or images derived from it. The cauldron was most likely placed where it was eventually found sometime in the 1st century or slightly later, making it possible that the maker of the cup would have known the cauldron. It's more likely that the knowledge came indirectly, however. On the other side of the cup is Mercury, who sits counting money. As we shall see, Mercury is the Roman god most often connected with Cernunnos. We also see Mercury on the Reims image, for instance, where he stands on Cernunnos' left with Apollo to the right. Cernunnos holds Mercury's purse in his lap. He doesn't hold a torque or snake here, but he wears a torque around his neck, as well as an armband, which may be a substitute for one. There is another fragmentary image from Reims, which also shows the head of Cernunnos with the heads of Apollo to his right and Mercury to his left. Apollo appears with Cernunnos at Vendoux. The other side of the block is too damaged to identify, but by analogy with Reims it has been reasonably suggested that it shows Mercury. The Cernunnos himself is unusual in being represented as young. There is a young boy on either side, each of them standing on a snake and holding onto one of Cernunnos' antlers. Besides the presence of Apollo and perhaps Mercury, there is a similarity with the Reims image of what appears to be a bag in Cernunnos' lap. Apollo and Mercury are found together on other Gaulish images, confirming the connection found in classical imagery and literature.